Well, welcome one and all to FTP Test Day, part 3 of this little mini-series. I'm about now 22 seconds away from the start of the 20-minute test. I've just done some single leg warm-up drills, followed by the VO2 max effort, 5 minutes of VO2 max, and now it's time for 20 minutes best effort. Aiming for a negative split, and during the vlog we're gonna go back in time to show you my preparation in terms of the nutrition, and also a little recovery ride yesterday. Just gonna settle and find my cadence, find where it feels good, and build from there. Minute in, obviously all feels good right now. So starting yesterday, I had a lovely little recovery ride, fasted, and a Victor Campenaerts, including 20 minutes, very high cadence is key, 120 RPM, to get the blood and nutrients flowing through the legs. It was fasted, just a few amino acids. Let's check it out. Now twice a week, I'll either have 2 full rest days or 1 full rest day and a recovery day. Today I'm opting for a recovery day, just to spin out the legs ahead of most likely my FTP test tomorrow if I'm feeling good, or it'll be on Saturday if not. Therefore, no need for any coffee this morning. I always eschew all the coffee on a rest day or a recovery day, and just a half serving here of the amino work capacity. Reason I'm having amino work capacity is it will help prevent the breakdown of muscle during the training, and I'll have another serving after the training in order to supercharge the process of muscle repair ahead of tomorrow. So back on one of my old favourites, a nice little half-hour zone 2, including 20 minutes Victor Campenaerts cadence, i.e. high, 120 RPM, keeping it lower zone 2. Perfect for getting the nutrients and blood flowing through the leg muscles to aid the process of recovery. Felt good. Now for 5 minutes, slower RPM, a bit of stretching, and a post-ride nutrition. Immediately after exercise is a great time to stretch off the legs because the muscles are warm and there's less chance of pulling a muscle. If you're doing it cold, and I do it cold quite regularly, go into it very, very carefully and gently. Just let the muscle very gradually relax. You do that when it's warm as well, but it will just relax that bit quicker. Squeezing the butt and the hamstrings up towards the sky, feeling the stretch in the quads, and gradually the quad muscles will relax and the butt will sink back down. Okay, so that. And having stretched the quads, time to stretch the hamstrings. Gently ease into this, very gently, just feel the pressure in the hamstrings so you can touch the floor. And obviously I'm quite flexible, so I can quite quickly add pressure to the hamstrings by extending the butt upwards and hinging at the hips. And now let's check out the post-ride recovery. Carving up is the name of the game. Well, conference calls with amino acids to help the process of repair and recovery. Cheers. Only half an hour and a bite this morning, so keeping the post-ride nutrition very, very restrained. About 25 grams of protein, low fat, low carb, to carry on repairing damaged muscle tissue. And then from the just right here, we've got about 60 grams of low fat carbohydrates with a bit of the almond milk. Perfect for keeping the glycogen stores fully topped up ahead of tomorrow. Well, the hunger monster's still lurking, so having a bit of the fruit bread with some strawberry and rhubarb jam. Well, it's 3 hours on from the recovery ride and it's time to hit the good stuff. I refer, of course, to the Ultimate Greens. It's got vitamins A, B, C, D, E and K in it, but also iron and zinc, which is great for the blood health. The iron is better absorbed a few hours after training. In the immediate aftermath of training, I understand it isn't as well taken up by the body. So I sip this and crack on with work. Cheers. Water, lots of. Let me show you how to drink it. Cadence had dropped a little bit low there, so I picked it back up. Yes, I really do sit here all day. Lunch is on the agenda, it's a late one. And we've got the fast digesting carbohydrates from the ciabatta, slow digesting fibrous carbs from the veg, beetroot and asparagus, and plenty of vitamins there as well. Very nice meal to fuel performance, I reckon. And the salad cream is low fat, that's a great ingredient too. 70% reduced, check that out. I'd been feeling in good nick prior to the test, but the 5-minute VO2 max effort at 320 rising to 360 watts had confirmed to me that it wasn't going to be a vintage legs day. So here on the 20-minute test, I was struggling to find my rhythm, with cadence and power more variable than I'd envisaged in my own mind's eye. Well, 5:30, I'm still here, which means it's time for another little snack, keeping the fats low and the carbs high to fuel performance. A sumptuous little ball of sweetness and health, aka a pink lady, love these. And also a couple of Snacker Jacks, only about 50 calories per rice cake, I'll have two. At around this point into the 20-minute effort, I recalled why I hadn't done the Zwift FTP test for 18 months or more. Through the fog of time, I quickly reacquainted myself with the fact that, innocuous though it looks, the earlier 5-minute VO2 max interval does indeed take a little bit of sizzle out of the legs. So I found myself grinding out 88 to 92 RPM with the watts soaring all over the place, averaging 300 to 305 at this point. Well, I've made the arduous commute from the desk over there to the kitchen, and on the menu tonight is vegetarian chili rice and broccoli. Doesn't it look nice? Well, I personally sleep a little bit better with a bit of food in the tummy ahead of going to bed, so it's 10 p.m. I'm going to have a couple of rice cakes with a little bit of peanut butter. Also, it's a good time to take on a slow digesting protein source to help with muscle repair throughout the night, and therefore I really like these protein yogurts from Arla. 20 grams of protein in there. Going to add in a few blueberries, because it's always good to add in a little bit more fruit and vitamin C. This will set me up really nicely. Hopefully I'll sleep well, and then it'll be on for the pre-test nutrition first thing in the morning. Here's the weigh in ahead of the test. As I've been touching on during the recent vlogs, my preference now ahead of a long Zwift race is for a bowl of cornflakes with about 30 to 40 grams of sugar on the top. However, I don't have time for that this morning because it's 6:45 and I want to be going by about 7:30 in order to be done in time for work. Therefore, I'm going to load up the bottle here with a bit of the amino work capacity as usual, about 100 milligrams of caffeine and 30 to 40 grams of sugar. There we go. Each of these is about 3 grams of sugar in it, etc, etc. Cheers. Ooh, that is very, very sweet. Definitely brush teeth before test. Notwithstanding my many different facial expressions, I've been feeling pretty comfortable and content with the effort thus far, aiming for a negative split. And right here, about 15 minutes into the test, average power of 305 watts had been rising at a glacial pace. For whatever reason, I struggled to find the Goldilocks gear to get that lovely floating on air cadence. If I dropped the gear, the cadence flew up into the hundreds, and if I went up a gear, well, I was in the low to mid 80s, so I just had to accept feeling a little bit less fluid than usual. Therefore, in the final 4 to 5 minutes, I decided to get up off my backside and drain the tank proper. We decided to leave the final few minutes in real time for the pleasure of the aficionados of suffering. So settle in and enjoy the Mash Fest. It's a tad agricultural to say the least. But for those of a more sensitive disposition, the scenes of suffering may become too harrowing. So fast forward to 13 minutes 40 for the result and immediate aftermath. Going back to the summer and autumn of 2020 and outdoors, especially 100 greatest climbs Porlock Hill, plus the subsequent UK hill climb season, I've learned to value an out of the saddle Mash Fest. And over the winter I've honed this inside on numerous ascents of Zwift's Radio Tower, Bologna, Bentop and of course Alpe de Zwift. And for me, it's like having access to a second gear on the climb. I find it feels good to change up a gear or two and get out the saddle and push into a greater resistance in order to achieve a steady 65 to 70 cadence at the target power. It gets the muscles working more and gives the heart respite. And so here, at last, I found a rhythm of sorts at absolute max effort.
Wow, 300, oh. Dear me, that was seriously emotional. We were at DEFCON 1 from about 2 minutes in. The level of concern was at an absolute peak. Well, I had to dig exceptionally deep today. That was proper emotional. I knew I wasn't in tip-top form during the VO2 max kind of effort for the warm-up, I was definitely struggling a little bit seated. So I got out of the saddle when the power ramps up in the final 2 minutes of that 5-minute effort. And I felt a bit better after that. But about 2 or 3 minutes in to the 20-minute effort itself, the test, yeah, the level of concern was high. When we hit DEFCON 1, I was thinking, how am I going to keep turning the gear at this power? But I stayed just below where I felt I was going to blow up and kind of persisted with it. The power was also a lot more variable today. Normally on an FTP test, it seems like the gradient is smoother, but my power was all over the place, even when I was seated and spinning a nice cadence. I also let the cadence drift down too far, so I had to recalibrate. And you have to accept the loss of a few watts while you transition to the new cadence and you find that right cadence for the target power. Chase the cadence, not the watts initially. But I'm really pleased with that. I dug very deep in that final 5 minutes. And yes, I know what you're going to say. I see all the comments below. You're meant to do the 20-minute test seated. Well, in my view, all my best 1 hour powers, certainly on Zwift, on the longer climbs, have been a mixture of seated and out the saddle, period. And typically if I'm going max effort on the Alp or Ventop, I'll be out the saddle in the final 15-20 minutes for quite a lot of it, for the majority of it. And my best ever 1 hour power recently on Vontu or Vontop was 2/3 out the saddle. So to my mind, given that my focus is climbing, I'm happy to do a little bit of out the saddle action to get the vanity number up, because it is a vanity number, and that's the first time I've ever had a 300 watt FTP weighing less than 70 kilograms. So yeah, weighing in there, you'll see 63.5 this morning. So super happy with that. Gonna spin off the legs very nicely now. And if you liked the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, well, give it the old thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd be super grateful if you would. In the meantime, whoever you are and whatever you do, please remember to live, thrive, and stay healthy.